Dicebreaker is one of the most important English-language tabletop news sites on the internet. I think they do great work, but I generally try to focus on smaller games to help get indie designers a little more press. However, when I was checking out their 2022 Tabletop Awards categories, I realized I might have an opportunity to make my channel's coverage intersect with theirs. As I read through their Rising Star Designer name list, I was a little embarrassed to realize I only recognized a few of the names, and certainly couldn't tell you what projects these folks have worked on. In an effort to get myself familiar with the work of these nominees, I'm going to do a brief profile of each of them, mostly focusing on stuff that I personally find interesting. I hope it gives everyone a better understanding of these up-and-coming designers in the tabletop scene. Connor Alexander is a queer Cherokee designer based out of Seattle. He's best known as the lead designer and writer of Coyote and Crow, a science fantasy RPG set in a future where First Nations were never subjected to imperial and colonial encroachments. The game had a stunningly successful Kickstarter back in 2021, and has since grown to include expansions, spin-offs, and even a novel. Coyote and Crow rules for a lot of reasons, but I think my favorite part about it is its world building. The first 100 pages are full of lore about the world of Cahokia, with a timeline imagining a complex future wherein people from the First Nations have the chance to form republics, build and destroy empires, and band together to resist climate change, all without the baggage of a dichotomous Christian morality or contrived conflicts between science and mythology. It's just a gorgeously imagined and illustrated text. Dicebreaker ended up giving Coyote and Crow Best Role-Playing Game of 2022, and named Coyote and Crow LLC their Rising Star publisher, which, in my opinion, is well-deserved. Josiah Duke Harrist is a Minnesotan writer whose most prominent contributions to the tabletop scene come from his work with Fantasy Flight Games. I know them more for their big IP board games, specifically Star Wars and Lord of the Rings, but Harrist's work has been focused around Legend of the Five Rings, an Asian fantasy collectible card game that's been around since 1995, but only recently was acquired by Fantasy Flight. Not only has Harrist written for the fictional setting of L5R, but has also contributed to its most recent sourcebook. He's also had quite a few pieces in Kill Screen over the years. Gwendolyn Clark is a Minneapolis-based Jewish designer who, according to their itch.io page, only has one game. Infinite Revolution is a Lumen game in which players don exosuits capable of moving at light speed and engage in hypersonic duels to the death in space. The game has 3 modes of play: combat, ops, and downtime, which allow players to respectively fight aliens, conduct special tactics missions, and catch a break. Furthermore, the game features 12 classes based on the Western Zodiac, each tailored for unique roles and personalities. I don't actually have a copy of the game, but just reading the sample pages makes me understand why Clark made Dicebreaker's list. The text is oozing with personality, and its colorful art and highly customizable loadout system make Infinite Revolution a standout in the already stunning Lumen library. Kavita Poduri is a queer Indian-American tabletop designer based out of California. She's got several projects on itch.io, including an operatic military sci-fi game, and a free crafting supplement for Forge in the Dark stuff. But her main project is Songs for the Dusk, another Forge in the Dark text about building a better Earth after the apocalypse. The game's page describes a world full of dangerous, malfunctioning machines and threats from all sorts of authoritarians trying to reestablish the rotten systems of our old society. I really like a lot of Horizon Zero Dawn, and Songs for the Dusk seems to have a lot of overlapping themes, so this game is right up my alley. Lottie and Jack Hazell are the founders and designers behind Birdwood Games, a board game publisher based out of Warwickshire, England. They actually ended up winning Dicebreaker's Rising Star Designer Award, spurred by the success of Dog Park, a game in which players try to become the best dog walker in town by taking a variety of different hounds around the neighborhood. While Jack Hazell has a background in business management, Lottie is described as being the creative force behind Birdwood Games, as she is in the process of completing a creative writing PhD. They promised 2 new games in 2023, and I'm sure their next releases will be interesting. Congrats to these Rising Star designers. Mabel Harper is a trans-Filipina designer, writer, musician, and novelist based out of Philadelphia. While they're juggling a number of projects, including a just-released album and a serially updated contemporary fantasy novel, her pieces most relevant to my channel are Steelweaver's Rebellion and The Demon Collective Volume 1. Steelweaver's Rebellion is a Blades in the Dark module wherein you play working-class heroes fighting to free their city from the oppressive regime of an industrialist who built his fortune on the backs of your neighbor's labor. The Demon Collective is a system-neutral anthology of 4 horror adventures, where players will search for missing students at a wizard school, explore the tomb of a vampire princess, survive predators stalking a dwarven library, and cut their way through a cult taking over a town. Harper's got a fascinating variety of work, and you should absolutely keep an eye on their next projects. Mario Ortegón is a queer Mexican designer based out of Monterrey. He's done work for MCDM, Wizards of the Coast, Paradox Interactive, and Critical Role. He's also played an important role in the organization of Big Bad Con, where he served as a member of their POC leadership team this year after having been on a panel about finding success as a POC in games at the 2021 convention. His biggest, most recent contributions have been his work with Dungeons & Dragons, specifically for his contributions to Journeys from the Radiant Citadel and Dragonlance: Shadow of the Dragon Queen. Ortegón's adventure in Radiant Citadel, The Fiend of Hollow Mine, is inspired by Dia de los Muertos, wherein players will have to build an ofrenda to commune with the spirits of their departed loved ones. N.L. Morrison is a queer Jewish author currently living in Michigan. Morrison's itch.io profile boasts an array of RPG tools, such as a constellation generator, a pirate map maker, and a character creator based on the player's reading of a book. His most comprehensive games are Fair Play, a betting game where players wager on the outcomes of tournament fights, and Printweaver, an OSR Souls-like game where players build their characters based on the pattern of their fingerprints. Printweaver is classless and levelless, but stats and starting equipment depend on whether your prints come in a loop, arch, whirl, with additional options for people whose prints do not meet those criteria. It's a fascinating take on OSR-style character generation, which, given Morrison's work building other kinds of tables and generation tools, does not surprise me. Seb Pines is a queer, trans, and disabled game designer, writer, and co-founder of Good Luck Press, currently living in Toronto. Their body of tabletop work is pretty robust, as in addition to a number of games, both digital and physical, they've also had essays featured in Knucklebone magazine and Nerves. Pine's most recent releases include the browser-based visual novel Misconnections, as well as Dwelling, a solo game where the player walks alone through a haunted house, revealing hidden memories as they delve deeper into their home. Just skimming through their catalog, it seems to me that Pines has an interest in games that are emotionally and physically intimate, as some of them involve sustained eye contact, holding hands, and cybersex role-playing. I think that's kind of incredible. Pines' work is a perfect example of the ways in which tabletop games can push boundaries far beyond traditional RPGs. Viditya Voleti is a queer interactive artist and game designer based out of Brooklyn. While goblin-themed games appear to be a significant portion of Voleti's profile, he's got a pretty wide-ranging selection. I personally think Volume, a collection of system-agnostic modules for fantasy games, is really neat. Just check out this beetle carrying a shop. However, I think the most striking text, just based on the art alone, is Bloodbean Badlands, a post-apocalyptic Western-themed RPG where an ever-burning red sun never crests the horizon, allowing vampire outlaws to terrorize the world. I could tell you about the 4 types of superpowered vampire you can play as, and I could tell you about 5 types of cursed ammunition your trusty firearm can shoot, but instead, I'm going to show you a picture of a burning tyrannosaur with a revolver for a head. This game looks incredible, and if any of that sounded even remotely interesting, you should check out Voleti's whole backlog. That's everyone. I could do whole videos on just one of any of these designers' games, and after a brief leaf through of their work, it's no surprise why these folks came up on Dicebreaker's radar. I hope this primer gave you an idea of the diversity of games coming out in the tabletop space, as well as an idea of some folks whose careers you should keep an eye on. Links to these designers' social media and game sites will be in the episode description, should you want to follow them. Thanks as always for watching, and I'll see you all in 2023.